Alright guys, I don't care if you can hear the fan next to me, I am sweating my balls off. It's 32 degrees at the moment and yeah, not very fun. But here we go, it is another episode of reviewing every team's season and this time it is Newcastle. They stank up the gaff a little bit, I'll be so real with you. I mean these stats do not make for pleasant reading in the slightest. If we look at their performance in this season, when it goes back 12th in the league, and genuinely, it could have been worse. They were close to finishing in 13th, maybe even 14th, which is where they were at times in the season. A few scraped wins here or there dragged them up the table, but I mean, given how close they were on points, the fact that they finished 12th is crazy. They never looked like a European contending team. Teams like Sunderland, Brighton, Brentford all looked as if they were going to be so much better in the year than Newcastle, and the final result shows. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the analysis bit of this video. Took Newcastle a little bit of time to get going in the season. They started. I remember this game against us was a really shit game overall, all things considered. Yeah, but then they started to get a bit of a roll going on once the season gone in, and this is the kind of thing where you started to think like they lose to Barcelona. This was a good game. Rashford had a good performance, and they're beating Wolves only 1-0, and you start to think, is this another time when they've got Champions League football and they are struggling to capitalise on it? But then they start to pick up a little bit. They beat teams like Forest, they beat Benfica, it's good wins, Fulham, Spurs, they're beating these teams, and then there's just bad results just sprinkled in, like losing away at West Ham and stuff like that, and then losing to Brentford 3-1. This is a Brentford team that are slightly inconsistent towards the start of the season, and they were doing okay. They were like plodding along. Beating City was great. Beating Everton in that fashion was great. They beat Burnley. They drew to Newcastle and not Newcastle Leverkusen. This game for me is kind of where it turned. I mean, Voltemade was in good form going at the start of the season, scored his own goal, and for me, it just kind of collapses. Like it's just such a bullet to the system, losing away in the Tyne derby. Like they keep plodding along here, and then it just all kind of starts to go to shit. Like they lost to United, they beat three poor teams at the time in, I mean, close fashion with this one here, and then it starts to go really, really poor. They're losing in the FA, in the EFL Cup. They're going out of that competition, drawing to one of the worst Wolves teams we've seen in a very long time, losing to us, and then just get slapped about here, getting dumped out the getting dumped out of the Carabao Cup again, put in a pack by Liverpool, beating two shit teams and us in the cup in a game where we were awful. Again, big losses in the league. You beat Carabao all you want, but come on, like if you're going to be losing like in this little run of form here, like slapped by Barcelona away from home, again embarrassed by Brian Bobby in the late stages of the time weird derby, losing to a Palace team on the beach, losing to Bournemouth, losing to Arsenal, losing to like Fulham on the last day is really just a pathetic, like drab end to the season. Drawing game, and they never looked good in any of these games. This game here, they won, but they didn't look fantastic. Like it wasn't the best Newcastle performance I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, it's just really like expectation wise, it's such a poor run of it. Like they had a decent cup run, but if that's the highlight of your season when you were playing Champions League football, come on, it's really not good enough. For me, Newcastle are getting a 4 out of 10. They've done it again now, where they have failed to capitalise on Champions League football, failed to develop on it, and they've just gone backwards. They've got no European football next season. Um, they finished aggressively mid-table. It's just like not good enough at all. Eddie Howe for me is not the man going forward. I don't think. I think he's done well to get Newcastle to where they are, and I think he has got to Newcastle to the peak of where we can get them. Really, I don't think it gets any better than this for Newcastle. So they're getting 4 out of 10 for me from the performance for this season. I'm going to start with the incomings for their transfers. Jesus Christ. Like, I don't think Voltemade is that bad a footballer. I think there's a player in there somewhere. These two have shown me genuinely fuck all this season. Johan Wissa could have been signed for nothing if you waited for 6 months and picked him up on a free. You could have kept Wilson for a season, let him go next year, and then got Wissa in for free. Why they spent 57 million on him, I will never understand that decision. Anti Elanga was, for me, looked like a good signing at the time. awful. He's been so bad this year. Like, genuinely, like, he's not given me even like a slight suggestion of that he's going to do anything good. He's been so bad, like genuinely so bad. Ramsey, disappointing. For the money spent, you'd expect more, and from a young player that we rated quite highly and that we really liked over at Villa. Ramsdale, okay. Chow was the only good highlight for me. I think he was pretty good. I think he was a pretty good centre back. Tailed off towards the end of the season, but I think Newcastle as an entity tailed off towards the end of the season. I'm not necessarily going to blame him on that. And then you come to this. This was just a mess, all things considered. Like, if you wanted to leave that badly, I understand the player power deal. You don't want to let them all get their way. He's your best player. You want to keep him. If he doesn't want to stay, why are you leaving it that late? You've almost pretty much you've created such a negative atmosphere around the club. There was such a bad feeling, a bad vibe around Newcastle because of this guy, and they let him do that. If he comes to him at the end of the season and said, I want to leave," you plead your case. We've got Champions League football. Stay one more year, something along them lines. If he says no, I really want to leave, you can say, okay, we'll let you leave for this fee. If Liverpool meet this fee, then you can go for that, and if they don't, then not a chance. Obviously, Isak put his toys out the pram anyway, but if you don't set the precedent, then you're not going to get your way. You could have oh my God, what is wrong with me? This is what happens when I don't record for a week. You could have let Isak go in later July for the price that you wanted, and you could have removed that like stain from the club. You could have let the new boys settle in well. You could have let Voltemada come in, a Wister if you're going to sign him, come in and settle in well, and not have this Isak cloud hanging over their heads. I think that's been really poorly handled from Newcastle's perspective. Kelly and Longstaff weren't good players. The fact that they sold Kelly for £70 million profit after signing for free, I think it's pretty cool. Longstaff was never going to get game time, especially after signing someone like Ramsey. Hayden, Lascelles, Dubravka, all people that weren't playing. Target, all people that weren't playing. Good to let them go. But it's just poor. These players have come in and not performed well enough. Even though I do like Voltemada, hasn't performed well enough for me. Oh, okay. I didn't realise it. I don't care. But yeah, if we have a look at his stats for a second, for how he performed, for the money spent, just not what you want. Like, whenever it fucking loads, Jesus Christ, this website. They really need to make a Transfermarkt app. I would be all over that. But yeah, 8 goals in 33 games in the Premier League is so average, and you're not 1 goal in the Champions League. It's kind of shit. It's like you spent 75 million quid on the geezer. Like, at the end of the day, I know he's got big shoes to fill, but fuck, like, he's got to do better than that. He does have to do better than that. It's a 4 out of 10 on the transfers for me for Newcastle, and I don't really think you can feasibly give them any higher than that. Starting with the 2 big ones for them going forward. Tonali and Gordon have gone. Wow, that is a big, big chunk of money that Newcastle now have to spend. If you look it up here, they've got what, 188 million off those 2 players alone. Tonali going is shit. Gordon going is a lot better. I don't think Gordon was a very good player last. I think he was probably one of their better players in the poor season they had. They can improve on him, and they should improve on him. Tonali going is a punch to bollocks. That is a massive, massive slap to the balls. Gone to Spurs as well, which is so weird. That's a massive signing for them. That's class work. These lads, these are young players that have come in here. 3 young players who I've never seen play football in my life. They spent a lot of money on them. They're obviously future proofing here. You need a bit more for me. If I'm going to go to the squad here, you need. I don't know this Joe, and I guess he's coming in to replace Pope in the long term, but you need right back reinforcement. You need centre. You've only got Livramento really as a first tier player. You need a new right back to compete there. You need a new left back as well, a backup left back to compete with Hall. You need to replace Tonali. You really need to spend that money. You can't just shithouse it. Like, you need to spend a bit of money. You've got this Banzumana Traore here. It's a good young. Well, he's a young player. I haven't seen much of him, but you need another young wing option for me. And then this is the big point as well. Where is he? Bruno Guimaraes potentially going to Arsenal. If he leaves, I think that's a massive, massive issue there for Newcastle. You're not going to replace his leadership. You're not going to replace his desire. Like, you're not going to get someone as good as him. For me, I think whoever you sign will probably be a downgrade, but he's the massive one you need to replace. I don't think Eddie Howe's the man. I really don't. I think he's done well to get Newcastle to level you're at, and I think he might have found his level as a manager. I think he might just be a, an upper mid-table Premier League gaffer, or the England manager if Tuchel resigns. I think that's the role that Eddie Howe was born to play. Now, he's proven that he can't do it in the Champions League. I know first time around they had a tough group, but the way they didn't qualify is disappointing. The seasons they've had domestically playing Champions League football have been awful. They obviously can't do both at the same time, and I think that's massively partly down to Eddie Howe, obviously. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start this season slowly if he gets the chop. For me, I can't give Newcastle any higher than a 5 for prospects going forward next season. If you think about the fact they haven't got Champions League might actually be good for them. But they're losing good players. They lost 3 of their starting players. I haven't really seen too much on their replacements. He might be good signings. Traore might be a good signing. This where is he? Stour, I think his name is Sean Stour. Is it? Yeah, Sean Stour. I've never seen him. Young player again though. And then Jowan as well. I don't know. I can't give these players any like I can't give them any rating of any kind because I've never watched them play football in my life. But it's a 5 from me because they have got potential to do well, and you're hoping that someone like Voltemada, someone like Alanga can come good this season after having a year of adapting up at the Tyne side. But yeah, for me, it's got to be a 5. And this brings us to the table so far. Newcastle slotting right in above Forest on a 4 out of 10. Underneath Spurs, above West Ham on transfers, and behind Leeds for prospect next season. 13 out of, I don't know why I put out of 10 there. That was a bit silly of me. 13 out of 13 for Newcastle. And I've done the same with Wolves. Jesus Christ, I'm bad at this YouTube thing. Yeah, 13 out of 30. It's not great. They haven't had a good season. They are a good step off teams like Everton, teams like Leeds, and they are just about ahead of Forest, which I think is fair, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's all from me for this one. And I really want to try and get these out on a consistent basis. I'm not in work as much over the next few weeks before I go away. I want to see if I go away on the 27th. If I can get all the videos done by then, I think that'll be a decent effort. But yeah, it might be hopeful thinking, but I'll give it a go. I need to get up to date on the Substack as well. I'll do that in and when I can. And thank you very much for watching, boys. Have a good one.